Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of the Dissidia Final Fantasy NT Beta, which makes it a preview. I played it on the PS4. So firstly, it's a beta, so the story is not really all there. You don't get to do much with it. There's a few cutscenes you can watch, but I'm kind of worried because is there really a story mode then? Like it says there is, but when you go to it, it just takes you to a menu where there's cutscenes you can unlock through other gameplay. As for the audio, the soundtrack is fantastic. It's a bunch of Final Fantasy music once again, and I love Final Fantasy music. I have always loved it, so hearing that once more is great. As for the sound effects, they work well in the combat. I didn't have any missing ones or run into anything that really threw me off. And as for what little voiceover work I did get to hear, it was good. I can't fully judge it because there wasn't a ton of it. As for the gameplay and mechanics, it is a fighting game once again, and it is a much more freeform fighting game than a lot of other ones out there. Your arenas are very large, you're able to move around them very quickly. Although admittedly, some of them feel smaller than the previous games. Actually, most of them felt smaller than the previous games. One of the key differences in this Dissidia is that it's 3-on-3. If you're playing solo, you have 2 computers on your team. There's a lot of things that make it feel like it's meant to be multiplayer, which that honestly concerns me a bit because it felt like they removed things in order to try and balance it, and that will negatively affect it for solo players. For me specifically, I noticed that I wasn't able to customize my character's fighting style essentially in order to make them fight in a way that I felt worked best. In the previous games, you had a ton of different moves that you could swap in or out, not on the fly, but in between matches, so that it would fit your style better. And while I did find that there are other moves, I wasn't able to customize what moves I had. Also in the previous games, there were power-ups that you could customize for your character, and I didn't find that in the beta either. And looking at it, I think it's because they want this to be multiplayer, but I do have concerns, like I said. It still functions in a similar manner where you have attacks that are meant to basically not harm the opponent, but make you stronger so that when you do hit them, it does more damage. So that's very similar, but like I said, they removed some things that I felt were key elements. As for the controls, this goes back to the customizing of the fighting style and the different attacks that you have access to. The controls did not work as well for triggering those attacks. I found it very difficult to trigger some of those different attacks, so when I was playing, I generally used 2 or 3 attacks in total. That includes both the ones that just build you up and the one that actually does damage, which you only have one that will do actual damage. I wasn't able to trigger anything other than, since I play Cloud a lot, Cross Slash. So that's disappointing, but like I said, it was hard to trigger those, and that in and of itself, that sucks. You end up doing essentially 2 to 3 attacks the entire match, and that limits this game. It gives me a lot of concern with the actual game because the movement and all that stuff worked fine, and when you press buttons to attack, they worked fine, and the controls overall felt for the most part very natural. But that lack of responsiveness when you're trying to do attacks other than just the primary attack, that's not okay. As for the graphics, it looks good. It's obviously the best looking Dissidia game on account of it's the first one to not be on a handheld. But you do get the unique character designs of the different Final Fantasy characters. There was a limit to how many characters there were. I assume there will be more in the full game, and probably there will be DLC characters and maps and whatnot. But as it stood, it looked good. I was kind of disappointed by the limited characters, although they had my favorite characters, or at least some of them. They didn't have all my favorite characters from the game. Overall, the beta was fairly enjoyable, but I do have some major concerns about the actual title when it comes out. Will there be a real story mode? Will I be able to customize more intensely? Things like that, those are the 2 main things that I judge all games on, are the mechanics and the story. If one is great, then I can completely ignore the other. Well, not completely ignore, but, I can live without a story if the mechanics are great and it's a fun game to play. But if there's a shit story and shit mechanics, or a great story and shit mechanics, it doesn't work so much. Lost the plot there for a moment, but the point being, I do have concerns about the full game. I will review it when it comes out. I hope that my concerns are not warranted, but as it stands, I'm cautious. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me if you've played a Dissidia in the past? There were 2.5, just so you know. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.